A week later, he would play his 36th final. But the Hawks' dream of an 8th successive grand final evaporated as Melbourne shut down their forward line and eliminated them by 9 points. After 221 games and 3 flags, it was the end for coach Alan Jeans and buoyant Alan at Melbourne. All would be instant crowd pleasers. It would be a topsy-turvy year, to say the least. Melbourne kicked 2 goals in round 1, then a barrage of 27 in round 2. Darren Bennett kicked 8 of them.
And the drop punt. Bennett's got his third.
And before the decade was out, his right foot would take him to new heights in the American NFL. And Todd Viney saw nothing to smile about when he was bitten on the finger by Eagle Chris Lewis. The goal-kicking sensation of the year had to be Alan Jakovich. After 60 goals for the Melbourne reserves, he relished his rise to the big time, kicking his first 50 goals in 8 games. As the final 6 swung into gear, Melbourne, with Jakovich still kicking bags of goals, accounted for Essendon in a fiery encounter at Waverley. If 1991 was a year of change, the greatest revelation would come when Irishman Jimmy Stynes, the 25-year-old Melbourne ruckman, won the Brownlow medal, and just about every other award going too. 7 years earlier, he'd never heard of the game.
I still get back to the Jim Stynes story, you know, winning a Brownlow medal, a lad from Ireland. I think that's as unique as the game can ever get.
Before John Northey swooped on the job, leaving Melbourne for the opportunity to join his old side. And the brothers Jakovich displayed a little affection.
Drop punt. He's given it a barrel. He's given it a big one. It's a ride. It's a goal. A beautiful kick. He salutes the crowd, kisses his brother, and levels the scores. The Jacko show.
Melbourne shocked Carlton. Sean Charles and David Schwartz underlining the strength of the Demons forwards.
Not a bad snap. A goal.
Sean Smith would take the mark of the year.
Good kick. Oh, what a mark! Mark of the year. Mark of the year in the last round. Now go on, KB. What do you reckon?
I reckon it was
that is the biggest leap since Modra 2 years ago.
Perhaps the most remarkable story of the 90s centred on Dublin Jim. In round 9, Jim Stynes played his 205th consecutive game to beat Jack Titus's record for durability that had stood for half a century. And he would keep on playing and playing.
A great story.
On Monday, September 16, at meetings in Melbourne, merger talks would bitterly divide 2 clubs. Former dual premiership captain Don Scott had led the push to stop the Hawks merging with Melbourne. His team would easily win the vote for survival. Melbourne fans gave President Ian Ridley a torrid greeting, but would eventually move to merge with the Hawks. In the end, the Demons found a saviour in Diamond Joe Gutnick. Within months, Gutnick and his men had taken over the club and were swiftly reorganising its finances and administration. For the first time in 40 years, both the previous year's grand finalists would open with a loss. North's defeat by lowly Melbourne, all the more painful, with serious injury suffered by skipper Carey and gun ruckman McKernan. Melbourne Football Club was in turmoil. On the bottom of the ladder, with coach Neil Baum under constant pressure, the Demons were under the leadership of mining magnate Joe Gutnick. At the end of April, he replaced general manager and former captain Hassan Mann with former Tiger executive Cameron Schwab. Melbourne had lost 8 straight games. After kicking only 3 goals against Port Adelaide, Gutnick reacted by sacking coach Neil Baum. Into his place came reserve-grade coach Greg Hutchison, and a few days later the Demons would upset Richmond to end the drought.
Big win for the Melbourne football.
Well, I guess I've been surprised at the rate of the corporatisation of footy, I guess, more than anything else. I mean, it's not so long ago where we were dealing with suburban grounds on a regular basis, and now, with the going of Waverley and Victoria Park, I mean, it is a corporate entity, and there's no doubt about it that the game itself and the players are big corporate players now, and that's a great fear and concern for the grassroots supporter. But I'm hoping that the league and the commission, and I think they're smart enough to bear that in mind.
Melbourne had appointed former Essendon captain Neil Danaher as coach, and lured young ruckman Jeff White from Fremantle. Their turnabout was remarkable. They withered in the Fremantle heat, welcomed favourite son Gary Lyon back against North in round 2 and then notched 5 successive wins. A 2-point victory over Carlton would prove costly, as star forward David Neitz broke his ankle and ruckman Jimmy Steins his hand in 3 places. After 244 games without a miss, the Iron Man was finally sidelined. It was a record that spoke volumes of Steins' courage and consistency. Richmond had one last chance to make September, but a devastating loss to the in-form Melbourne ended their hopes. The Demons under Danaher had created AFL history by rising from last in 1997 to 4th in 1998. They would start the finals in fine form too, beating defending premiers Adelaide by 8 goals. Farmer and Neitz kicking 6 apiece. St Kilda would lose to Melbourne in the first of the semi-finals. AFL Coach of the Year in 1997, Stan Alves, would be sacked. Melbourne's hopes of rising from wooden spooners to premiers in a year was shattered in the preliminary final. North, superbly led by Corey McKernan, would win by 5 goals. Peter Everett was again in trouble over a racial taunt to Melbourne Scott Chisholm. The All-Australian ruckman voluntarily standing out for 4 matches and donating $20,000 to charity. And there were heartstoppers. Melbourne snatching a last-gasp victory over Hawthorn.
The Demons build it, they've got it through from behind. There is time though. Hawthorn will get one good crack at this. Oh, you look at it from Phoebe, all across the line. Just to Walsh, that was close. Walsh away, and Melbourne has won it. The Demons by a point.
Melbourne's champion forward Gary Lyon also retired. Chronic back injuries ending a distinguished 224-game career. Following Lockett into retirement would be Melbourne skipper Todd Viney,